huge breaking news this moment.
There is ultimately the threat of relegation from the Premier League if the more serious charges against Manchester City are proved.
Manchester City relegated by Christmas. Well, I tell you what, this case is going to move very, very quickly. The Premier League Chief Executive, Richard Masters, has spoken about it. He said it's self-evident that the case around Man City needs to be resolved.
Now, Man City is facing a potential significant points deduction due to breaking Premier League rules. A hearing is set to begin in September.
Huge breaking news in the football world that could shake the Premier League to its core. Manchester City, one of the greatest teams in the last decade, could face relegation. It's a situation that could drastically alter the landscape of English football. But how long will this appeal process last? With so much at stake, everyone's looking for answers.
And my understanding is that the time frame for this is that, as we say, we think it's the September the 16th start. The case is due to be heard for about 2 months, could run a little bit longer.
They've said it should last about 10 weeks in terms of the hearing, so therefore you're into basically end of November.
There'll then be a verdict either side of Christmas, depending on who you talk to. Could be just before, could be just after. There's then likely to be an appeal, depending on what that outcome is. And then the idea is that that appeal would then be finalised, resolved, everything completed by the end of the 24-25 season.
We've seen points deductions, but we've never seen the best team in the league, and the best team in the league over the last 10 years, be booted out of the league for effectively circumnavigating/cheating.
Now, you might be wondering, what exactly are these charges and why are they so serious?
They're all fairly samey. They're all to do with financial mismanagement, but the basis of most of them is there's allegations that City have failed to fully report financial reports at the end of each year, particularly in relation to revenue. There is also allegations that City have failed to disclose player salaries and how those players are paid, whether that be with offshore payments or in-house things. They've failed to disclose the full way that they pay the wages of their players effectively, and that they have failed to cooperate with the Premier League's internal investigation. So a bit of an extra slap on the wrist there for that one as well. They failed to cooperate with the Premier League, which
the claim is that they've been falsifying their accounts.
City deny doing this,
But let's talk about the impact on Manchester City. As a club that has become synonymous with success in recent years, rising to the top of English and European football, the implications are enormous.
We've had 5 different winners of the Premier League, including Manchester City. Manchester City have won 7 in 12.
You can see on the engravings on this trophy just how dominant Manchester City have been for the last decade. Look, they've won it in the last 4 seasons. In fact, look a bit further over here. They've won it 6 times in the last 7 seasons. They have been absolutely dominant.
It's not good when we're talking about one of the greatest teams that we've seen of all time in the Premier League and managers that there's this almost asterisk above it until this is sorted out. So
If they bypassed rules or, cut corners to get to the best, there needs to be a punishment.
If they're found guilty of these 115 charges, it wouldn't just be point deduction, it would be relegation into the second tier.
The Premier League is more successful than it's ever been. It's one of the UK's most impressive and successful worldwide global exports, but it has had a cloud hanging over it for 5 or 6 years now, ever since these investigations were started.
There is a very, very big chance that Man City will have the book thrown at them if they get found guilty. And that book will surely include booting out of the Premier League in some way, shape or form. It could be the end for Manchester City. It could be multiple relegations. It could be the end of the juggernaut.
they brought Pep Guardiola to the club on the back of these charges that are there. So these needs answering sooner rather than later, and we can't be waiting 2 to 4 years, because that is just a mess for Man City, but also everybody else competing in the Premier League.
You've got to be hopeful that once the hearings have been handled for those 10 weeks, that both parties can find a way to try and resolve this and put an end to it. Because the longer the circus goes on, then I'm afraid the damage, collateral damage for everybody, is bad.
City fans as well will just want to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and get it out of the way. It needs some clarity, doesn't it? And I know it's difficult because of all the legal machinations and it being very complex and different to all the PSR. We know all that, but it's just dragging on and on and on, isn't it?
So, what's next for Manchester City? Your thoughts are crucial in this discussion. Drop your comments below, hit that like button if you're following this story, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.
Questions they face stretch back years, because this is a club transformed, from one that went decades without a trophy to one that's won the league 5 years out of the last 6. That is a long way from where it was in 2008.
Financially, we were almost out of business.
But it was about to become the richest club in the world. Sheikh Mansour is a billionaire member of the Abu Dhabi royal family. His investment company bought Manchester City, and the spending began. And in 2021, they reached the final of the Champions League. They also won the Premier League that year and the next. And then, as City chased the league this season, in February, there was another development.
The dominant force in the English game, hit with an unprecedented catalogue of charges by the Premier League that, in its most severe case, could see it expelled from the league.
The period in question is 2009 to 2018, the first 9 full seasons under City's Abu Dhabi ownership. The charges included the failure to report financial results, in particular with respect to its revenue, including sponsorship revenue. It's also accused of not giving full details of players' salaries and failing to cooperate with the league's investigation. If the charges are upheld, losing a title is one possible punishment, but there are others.
The most likely sanction will either be a financial one or a points deduction.
We're not at this stage, though. City said it was surprised by the charges and denies them. A statement pointed to a comprehensive body of irrefutable evidence that exists in support of its position. And the BBC's Dan Rowan asked City's manager, Pep Guardiola, about this.
How confident are you that you have been told everything? Has it in any way affected your belief in the club?
My first thought is that we are already being condemned. So like what's happened right now, these weeks after Monday, it's happened the same what happened in UEFA. The club proved that we're completely innocent. I said to them, what happened? So Pep, we did anything wrong.
But this case won't be quick. Days before City won the title, The Times reported that Manchester City have launched a legal fight against the Premier League charges. They're questioning the legality of the process. It could be years before what City did and didn't do is settled.
People are going to continue to raise their eyebrows about City until the Premier League either can prove some kind of financial misconduct, or City can clear the name.